my song of songs to the God in man and woman. Bhagavati, Bhagavati, planted together by the eternal giver, two willow trees, dipped and sipped at the river of life. Bhagavati, Bhagavati, neither in the shadow of the other, and yet both intermingled like wind that has met, each one alone, though inseparably bound by the ground. Bhagavati, Bhagavati, when death, the compassionate giver, arrives, both fall in and die. Bhagavati, Bhagavati. That is the truth of the love between man and woman. All that goes on in between and on the surface is just made by our human condition and minds and emotions. We are planted together forever. But there is only one man and one woman. And this is the great mystery that the human mind finds impossible to conceptualize, to bring together. And yet love, the love of God, which is the love of true love, will finally bring it together, as has happened to me in this body. There are many paths to God, but there is only one way, and that is love. And it's extremely difficult for us human beings because we live off the conditioning of the past, of our teachers, of our parents and grandparents, and all the history of our culture. And then we are informed by the media, which has no truth in it whatever, no love in it whatever. So where do we get our information? We get misinformation from the media. We get misinformation from the films, except in rare cases. We're just informed with misinformation. So how can we ever love one another when we have so many paths, so many paths? There's the Islamic way, there's the Christian way, there's the Jewish way. There's all these divisions of ways, of paths, when there's only one way, and that is love. But humanity does not know what love is, except when the individual encounters it. And so we have to learn what love is. And love is the sacrifice of myself. What for? For something greater, for something nobler than the ordinary human aspirations. That's what love is. It begins with that. But of course there's no love greater than the love of God or the unknown or what I call the other. And that is indefinable. And so the human mind is not satisfied by loving that, because the human mind says, well, what is it? Like all the experts say, well, does God exist? Such ridiculous statements and questions, but you can understand from the ignorance that the human mind is where that question comes from. Does God exist? No. God does not exist. God is outside existence in its purity of being, or its purity, I can't say of being even. But God is in existence only as love. That's what God is in existence, is love. But the way we've been taught is to love sex, to love the sexuality. We've been taught that sexuality is the way. Now, sex is a most beautiful thing. And sex should lead us, and its whole purpose is to lead us to love. That's the purpose of sex. It's not the purpose to enjoy yourself. It is indeed to enjoy sex, but not to enjoy yourself in sex. And there is a distinction that the human mind can't make. How do I enjoy sex and not enjoy myself? That's the question, isn't it? Well, when you enjoy yourself, you are fantasizing in sex. You get your enjoyment out of the fantasies of going into past emotions, past experience, because we are creatures of the past. All fantasy puts you into a past enjoyment of sex. That's what fantasy is about. You can only imagine some figure that is in the past, because if it wasn't in the past, you wouldn't be able to imagine it. You must have invented it, seen it. And so you fantasize in sex, and then you enjoy yourself. Whereas sex is the most beautiful thing between the man and woman's bodies. It doesn't have to be imagined, because it's a fact that a man making love to a woman is such a superb pleasure in the body that you don't have to imagine anything unless you want to enjoy yourself. What's the good of enjoying yourself when you're making love to a woman or a man? I thought the thing would be to enjoy the man or the woman. But the human mind doesn't work like that. The human mind works off imagination. And that's what makes it sex. It's not pure. So you have to purify the sex in you. And that begins by not giving into imagination. Once I had a couple of years ago, 3 years ago I think, who came to a seminar from an Asian country. And after being with me for that time in which I talk about giving up fantasy, they both said to me, we can't do it. We enjoy the fantasy too much, so we're not prepared to give it up. I said, fair enough, fair enough. And you'd think that would be all right. And it is all right for them, because I'm not trying to change them. But the thing is that what love's about, what we are about being with me here, is about a freedom. What would be called liberation. A freedom. Freedom from what? Well, to start with, a freedom from the imagination. A freedom from the need to fantasize, to get an erection or to get some pleasure in the vagina. How about that? Because if you're dependent on imagination or fantasizing to get your pleasure, then you'll be manipulated, won't you? By someone who can bring a new way to fantasize for you. You start to love them for the wrong reason. And there are many devices for getting you to fantasize, man and woman, aren't there? All the sex shops are given to that, so that you can fantasize. Then you are vulnerable. And when you want to get out, eventually, of course, it's only true for now, and now might be years, who knows, but it's only true for now. When you want to get out of the persistent need of heightened sexual experience, and therefore heightened sexual fantasy, when you want to get out of that, and the time will come when you want to get out of that and have some peace, you won't be able to. It will mean tremendous self-denial, because fantasy comes from the self, because you enjoy yourself. So my teaching is about man and woman giving up the need of fantasy. Why? Because the bodies are sufficient. They're two magnets. The female body and the male body are two magnets, two poles. And when they come together, which is quite often in our lives, they come together, plonk, clunk. And how often that has happened to you? When you meet a new lover and you come together, clunk. Oh, it's just self-obliterating. You don't have to fantasize. Let's say you don't have to, unless it's such a habit that you do. You don't have to fantasize, because this connection of these two extraordinary bodies made by God, bodies are made by God. Remember the little baby that you came out of in the womb? You can't remember that, but just get that image. You are that baby. You are made by God. Your body is made by God. And the pleasure in your body is still there. The beauty in it is still there. And when you make contact with the opposite polarity, even if it's only for one night or for any time, it doesn't matter how long it lasts. In the beginning, it becomes such a magnetic bond. It is so beautiful. But then, the power of the magnets usually begins on one side or the other to wane. And if the power of the magnet on one side starts to wane, the power of the other magnet starts to wane. And something comes between the two. And the magnets are forced apart. Even if they continue to live together, they are forced apart by the familiarity that creeps in due to human conditioning of losing the vital love that was there in the beginning. And so it is, that's the history of the human race. I have this lover today and it is beautiful, and we made such beautiful love, and then next month or 6 months' time it's finished. And then I have another beautiful lover. What comes between us is the thought process, the doubting process, the fear process, the familiarity of just accepting what you have instead of remaining with the beauty of what is. To be with a woman or a man that you love in the beginning is a most beautiful thing. So why does it disappear? Because I start to get discontented because of myself. Myself, which likes the last word in an argument, for instance. If I have an argument with you, then I would have to ask you, what the hell are you arguing about if you love one another? If you love one another, what the hell are you arguing about? Why is one of you moody if you love one another? Well, there's a good reason, isn't there? Because someone's not loving one another, or someone's fantasizing, which is a psychic condition, and therefore not necessarily nameable by the other. You see, if you indulge in psychic exercises Yeah, it is a psychic, it's what I call substantive. The psychic world of emotions, the psychic world of wanting and trying and anger and all those emotions is a substantive world. Now, I use the word substantive because emotion is not substantial, is it? Emotion, the body is substantial, but the emotion that comes through it is not substantial, is it? And the fantasies that drive us into imagining bodies that are not there, that's substantive because it has an effect on the substantial. But it's substantive, meaning it's psychic. And the human race has very little nature of the psychic that determines so much of its living life in these bodies. And we give in to the psychic because every time you're angry, you are giving into the psychic because your body's not angry. Nobody ever gets angry. It's yourself that gets angry. The substantive psychic possession. You don't know, do you, how possessed the human race is by the psychic realm, which is just inside your body, made by the thoughts and wantings and tryings and imaginings of man and woman down through the ages. You and I are extremely vulnerable to that because the psychic energy is possessive. If you ever come across an angry man or an angry woman or an emotional man or an emotional woman, you will see a possession, a psychic possession. Now you look at this in your experience, please, because I don't want to be lecturing you, thank you very much. I want you to be with me and looking in your own experience. That if you've seen an emotional man or woman, have you ever seen the psychic change in their face? The psychic change in their body? Now, surely you have. And perhaps you've looked in the mirror when you're crying and seen the psychic possession that's taken over you yourself in certain occasions. When you're emotional, the distortion, the ugliness, because the psychic realm is ugly. And we are possessed by it as a human race so often. You have to break the conductivity that you have in you between your beautiful body made by God and this psychic possession, this psychic realm made by man and woman's wantings and tryings and discontent and unhappiness and hopings and wishings. You have to break the conductivity in you. And that, again, is what the spiritual life is about. And as making love is the most important thing in the experience of the human race, despite all the secrecy, despite all the lying and dishonesty that goes on everywhere, despite all the fear of concealment and secrecy, I know it's the most important thing in the whole experience of being human, is to make love. Even if it's only with yourself, with masturbation, it still goes on. And the lies associated with it are imponderable. So you've got to break the dishonesty that connects that psychic possession with your beautiful body. How do I do that? Well, you stop it as much as you can. Best to stop it, though, on the good days, like the days when you've got no pressure on you. Best not to start thinking about the past or someone in your life in the past. Best not to do that. Because that will make, when the pressure is on you of sex or excitement, that will make it easier for the insubstantive to come across and possess you again. So you've got to break your attachment to excitement, to visualization, to imagination, to fantasy. Otherwise you will never be free. You will always be possessed by something. Self-doubt is from the psychic realm. Self-doubt, the greatest curse on man and woman's beautiful existence that is possible in this existence. Self-doubt. So you're not good enough. So you're not good enough to love a woman. Or you can't seem to love a woman because you're not good enough. Or if you do love a woman, she leaves you. You're not good enough. Or you're a failure. And woman, you're not pretty enough. Your body's not beautiful enough. Something else. All self-doubt. And this, of course, comes from the identification with the mirror. We have to be very careful. We have to be very careful. Because God is amazing. I was telling someone the story this morning of Madame Guyon. And I made the observation that people these days seldom read the lives of the mystics of the past. Because we're so busy, we got so many gurus and teachers and so many paths and things to entertain us. But Madame Guyon was a French lady. I think she was in the 19th or 18th century. And she was very beautiful. And she loved God. A very dangerous thing, very dangerous. She loved God. She was a mystic. And she used to write about the love of God. But she was also very pretty and very vain. And she couldn't help but be aware of her great prettiness. And in her book, she herself writes, well, I read it a long time ago. It's probably out of print long ago, or I probably bought it in a second-hand bookshop, which I used to frequent to read the lives of the mystics and all those that mattered. And she said in her book that God afflicted her with smallpox. Zingo. No more beauty. But she knew that it was an affliction because she was vain. Now that's not to say that if you look after your body and make up your face or whatever it is you do, or do your hair, that's not to say that you're vain. That's not vanity. But it's a matter of inner attachment. And so it's much better to accept yourself as you are, which you are beautiful, If you're beautiful, you're beautiful, and why shouldn't you be? And it's a very lovely thing to be beautiful, but not to use it in any flirtatious way, which Madame Guyon admitted that she used to do. Because in the midst of life, as the prophets said, we are in death. Right? Now this is not doomsday. They call poor old Schopenhauer a pessimist. Schopenhauer was one of the greatest philosophers, German philosopher. And he used to hit the nail right on the head. boom, boom on the human condition. And because he used to hit the nail on the head, he got the reputation of being a pessimist. Well, he would have said, well, what's there to be optimistic about in this life? But they can't hear it because they're all saying, we're going to send a man to the moon. Isn't that exciting? We're going to go beyond the sun. Isn't that exciting? All speculation, all imagination, all to keep us thinking that something's being achieved, and we're all going to die. You see, you have to keep death in front of you, not as a threat. For goodness sake, it's not a threat. Death is not a threat. From that song that I just sang, listen to those words. When death, the compassionate giver, arrives. Well, that's hardly a threat, is it? Death is a compassionate giver because it takes us out of this pain and suffering that if you look around, you can see. But it is our way. It is our way not to see anything, you see, that might disturb our peace of mind, when really you should look around and see what happens to people, but not take it on. You don't have to be attached to it. You don't have to be unhappy about it. You don't have to be unhappy about the world. That's what I'm talking about existence. The thing to do is to see it. Can you look at the world? Can you look at your mother or your father or someone getting older and older and with Alzheimer's disease or dotage or whatever it's called coming in, with the memory going and the inability to move around, to be mobile? Why can't you? You just got to see it. Because consciousness is what matters here. Consciousness is the way. And consciousness is the ability to be able to see things without becoming attached to them, without being sentimental. That doesn't exclude a love and compassion. Not at all. But sentimentality is not compassion. And the human race is sentimental and afraid of what? To look at how life is here, how living is here, that everybody is doomed, that everybody who's born must suffer like you did, like all you women did at the hands of men. Every young girl is going to go through the same thing. You can make the best of it. You can bring them up in the best girls' school or whatever it is. You can do everything you like. But the old karma is chasing. Always chasing that you have to take responsibility for the ignorance of the human race in yourself. And that means that you have to undergo. Everybody in existence has to undergo. That doesn't mean that you have to be unhappy about it. We tend to think that undergoing means you've got to be unhappy. No. If you are attached, for instance, most of the undergoing is in the love between man and woman. That's most of the undergoing. I mean, even if you're a successful artist, and and the world adulates you, it doesn't matter because it's the love between man and woman which is your reality. And that will make you undergo to the degree that you are not detached from that love of persons. You can love anybody, but while you are attached to them, you will suffer. So all the suffering that everybody goes through the love between man and woman is self-made because it comes from attachment. Love never ever broke anyone's heart. You wouldn't gather that from any of the videos, would you, or movies, or any of the stories of love stories. Love never broke anyone's heart. It is attachment, emotion, that breaks the heart and then mends it again pretty quickly. Love is a state in which my attachment to you through love, because here in this existence we tend to become attached to the thing we love, and that's fair enough. A little bit of attachment will always creep in, to a degree, let's say. But the more I love, the more that detachment is dissolved, and I can then love you. I can truly love you, not to get anything, because attachment wants something. It wants security. It wants something in return. It can't stand the coldness of pure love, which emotion is warm, you see. An emotional person wants emotional love back, warmth back. And true love is not warm. A true love to an emotional person is cold. But that does not excuse men and women who can practice with their mind's strength to be cold, which suits themselves. There has to be a sense of love in that cold love, which you can recognize as a justice, a virtue. Now, before I go any further, I would like us to go into this place of stillness again. So close your eyes, please. Now, it's not difficult. You just close your eyes and you find that we're there. Unless that I am there, meaning the I in that body. Unless what the speaker has said has disturbed you. Unless you've seen somewhere in your life where you are attached or frightened or being manipulated by emotion, then you are likely to be disturbed. But I ask you to put that aside. Come into this place of stillness. Put any disturbance or emotion aside. And sink into this place. It's such a release, a relief, to be able to be still. To not have any agenda going. Have no wants or wantings. That life is complete. At this moment, life is complete. And that's the truth. But if you think or are emotional, it's not the fact. But the truth is that life is complete now. Life's always complete now, as long as I do not think. Now open the eyes, please, and stay in the same place as much as you are able. I want you to see as much as you can with your consciousness that you can be in both places at once, in the place of stillness, in the place of being, and yet your awareness is still in your ears and eyes and what's going on around you. And so you are able not to divide yourself, but to have the knowledge of the wonderful God-made division in your psyche, awareness and consciousness or being. Two wonderful. One's a condition, the other is a state. And both are valid in their own way. It's what comes between the awareness and the consciousness, which is the thought process, the wanting process, the comparison process, the self-doubt process, the self. That's what keeps those two apart. Now, when you come to me, Master of Truth, and you hear the truth, it often tires you. It often starts to destroy some of the self in your body. And the destruction of yourself, or the dissolution of yourself by the power of the truth, which is in you and which I reflect to you by hearing what I say and by following it in your own experience, dissolves some of the misidentification in your body. And this can be tiring, particularly if you are new to this. But also because it doesn't matter how often you've been with me. I'm always new, like you are. And so it affects the self. And you can be tired by that, feel a tiredness in you. Now, would any of the new people, there are a number of new people here for the first time, like to ask me a question, please? First of all, the new people. Now, I will not criticize you. I won't come down on you. I just want to give you the opportunity, because I speak from a different place to where most teachers speak from. And I'd like you to have the opportunity for me to make something a little clearer that I might have not made so clear. Someone who's new, please. You must have a question. Please? It only needs one. Yes, this lady, please.
I'm not sure exactly how to phrase it, but I get a feeling of coming close to understanding when you talk about love and being self-sacrifice, and in tastes of a place similar to that, I'm not sure how to avoid being drawn back into emotion again if the person I'm interacting with is not coming from a similar place.
Yes.
And
well, why would you be with a person who wasn't coming from a similar place to what you know?
I find it that a question for me that has been present a lot is knowing when to walk away from something like that, and then some other philosophies or ideas are that that person is your greatest teacher, that you have the greatest opportunity for growth.
Yeah, what a lot of old nonsense. What a lot of old nonsense. It works to a degree. No, but that's a blanket sort of a statement that you should stay. You should stay with the person. He's drunk. He comes home, he can't help it. He takes drugs. He does that. He abuses you and then is all very sorry about it in the morning. The only thing is it goes on every second night or third night. He's your teacher. Well, to me, do you know what he's teaching you? Get out. Because he's making your life a misery, and you only have one life here. And your life should not be made miserable by anyone. But if you think it should be, then you go and you put up with him who makes your life miserable. But if the man loves you and shows you that he truly loves you and is restless or something else, then you can always ask him, well, what's wrong? And he should be able to tell you. But if he continues to either abuse you or be moody every day or switch or go into drugs or anything, you're not there. You're not there to be his mother or whatever it is, unless you think you are. I mean, if you think you are, then you're free to do that, but you will suffer. You know you're a woman, and this is the difficulty that I have in speaking to a woman, because she's listened to all the theories and things of other teachers. You're a woman. You should know what love is because you are love. You should know that love is harmony, is a sweetness. And of course, if the man is not in that place, you can still tell whether he's worthwhile. But if you become attached to him, if you think that this is your only chance, if you think that this man is going to go and make love to someone else and you don't want that, then you're in deep trouble because you're going to get manipulated by him. So you have to know if the man is worthwhile, if he's endeavouring to love you more. And if that is so, then perhaps in your own judgment, it is right that you should stay with him, but you must not become attached to him, or he'll manipulate you. You have to be woman of love, and woman of love is in command of love, a very, very rare thing. So she will believe man, but what she's got to do is not believe in anything, but have the knowledge of what love is in her, because she is. Pure love is woman. But all the conditioning and the ideas and the conceptualizing and all the teaching is on top of her, all the New Age business and such as growth. The worst word in the world is this growth, spiritual growth. In the spirit, you don't grow, you diminish. That'll tell you how real that is. If you're going to have some growth, you're going to have some self-growth. Whereas in the spirit, in love, in spirit, you diminish. You become less wanting, less comparison, less angry, less emotional. You're being diminished. Okay? Now, okay, so no doubt over the next couple of days we'll be speaking more about this love between man and woman. But there is a tendency for people and other masters I've heard from who think that my teaching is all about love between man and woman. This is because their main concern is love between man and woman, you see? But then I draw your attention to the vastness of my teaching, which is in such a book that has never been equalled in a comprehensive, lucid statements, as the origins of man and the universe. My goodness, that's quite a big stuff, isn't it? And then all my myth of life tapes, which deal with the other, which deal with the whole of it outside as well as the inner. So I'm just not concerned only with love between man and woman, but where is the greatest unhappiness in this existence? Right, in the love between man and woman. So where would you expect to find me? Although I deal with the other and describe the other in my origins of man and the universe, I focus on the place where man and woman make each other most unhappy. Indeed. But not to the exclusion of God in the other, of the reality of the other. Never. Because you have to be vast, because you are vast. You're greater than your little mind. You're greater than your emotions. You're as great as love. And love is great. So we're going to close for the day now. And I want to thank you all for being with me. And thank you all for following me in your experience. Not in your mind, but in your experience. As you examine what I say, everything I say needs to be examined in your experience. Only when something's true in your experience is it the truth. Not in your imagination, not according to what some other teacher has said, but your experience of life. And your experience of life is far, far deeper than you can remember, because it's a relative reality which is down in the deep recesses of your psyche, your subconscious. And so your a little superficial mind that depends on its memory is useless, because your knowledge of life, which you have lived, is so great that even you, if you could see it all at once, would be utterly astounded at your own knowledge. So thank you all for being with me. The point I'm just making is that I don't lecture. Scientists give lectures. Doctors give lectures. I speak of truth and love and reality and life and death and God. And you can't lecture on those things. You just have to hear it and recognize it if you do. And then it is your truth, not mine. Thank you all. Kate? We start tomorrow, Sunday, at 10:30. Thank you all once again.